This is The Back Pass, a podcast for sports nerds by sports nerds.
This week on The Back Pass, we go around the grounds. We are talking cricket. There is IPL, World Test Cricket Championship final looming. And then we go into the fast world of F1 and the crazy deals in the NFL draft and finish off with the NRL. Hello and welcome to The Back Pass. I'm your host, Ali Milwala, and with me today, I have an ever-energetic Kevin, Shivank, and Sid. Welcome, gents.
How's it going?
Hello.
Hello. Guys, we're gonna go straight to Sid, and we're gonna get cracking with the cricket. The IPL has been on. There's been lots going on in the IPL, lot of drama, lot of action, a lot of surprises too. What's been your pick?
Yeah, it's been an action-packed IPL. It always is, but it's been a different one this year because a few things changed. The impact player, some teams used it really well. Some still are struggling to understand what an impact player is, and a lot of impact players had absolutely no impact whatsoever.
Hello, Prithvi Shaw.
Ambati Raidu, that's another one. So, look, halfway through the stage, halfway through IPL, the obvious ones are still at the top, like they always are. The not so obvious ones are still in the middle of the table, Punjab Kings, and DC, Delhi Capitals. I think their support staff is a better betting unit than the actual players.
I made this joke last night with a friend when I was watching Delhi versus Sunrisers, and I said there is more batting talent in the coaching lineup for both teams put together than there is on the field because you've got Ponting, Ganguly, and Lara.
Yep.
Try beat that middle order.
Ganguly and Shane Watson.
And Watto.
And Watto. There you go. So, look, they're not technically out of IPL just as yet. They got 6 games left. They have 4 points. They have to win each and every game. Highly doubt they'll do it. So I think that's pretty much it. They've become subject to a lot of memes now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's at least they're good at something.
Yeah.
GT unstoppable this year again. Rajasthan Royals again top 2 like last year. LSG, I mean,
one click away from disaster, and that one click is how quickly do you get KL Rahul?
The opposition has to just focus on Rahul and not getting him out. That's it. Like Vijay Shankar was the man of the match for me last time. We played GT. He dropped him on 12. He batted till the end. They won the game. Simple as that. It's not rocket science, right? CSK number 4. RCB is I don't know what happens with RCB. They're number 5. They could somehow make it to 4. We don't know. But yeah.
I think they need 8 more. RCB needs about 7 more players in order to make it to the top 4 because they're only playing with 4 players, the top 3 batsmen and Siraj.
What's funny was with the RCB and RR game, Kohli got it in the first ball to Trent Bolt. That sort of brought back memories of 2019 World Cup semi-final. Yeah. Exactly the same way he got at LBW. I'm like, nothing's changed, bro. What's going on?
I'm just glad Bolt he's not bowling to Kohli in the WTC final now.
Yeah, that's true. That's a change, exactly. So yeah, that's IPL. I think if I have to make a pick for this year, I think it's looking like GT again. Yeah. I think they're very, very strong.
Yeah. Said any players that have caught your eye more than the others? Not talking Rahul, not talking Prithvi Shaw.
Any impact players have had an impact?
Any impact players? Yeah, look, Venkatesh Iyer has actually played well as an impact player for KKR. Rinku Singh, 5 sixes. I know a lot of people, there was 5 full tosses or 4 full tosses.
Still got to hit them for 6. Yeah,
you still got to clear it.
Yeah, so he's done well. Who else has caught the eye? Arshdeep again. Look, he's brilliant. He's
Yeah.
just getting one player, and that's coming as a keeper, Jitesh Sharma, Punjab keeper.
Yes. Yes.
He plays a very aggressive brand of cricket. He should be considered in the Indian setup very soon, especially in the T20 thing. He took the game close last time he played. I think it was CSK they were playing. His hitting is clean, so that's the one to watch out for.
Speaking of players that should end up in the Indian setup, Yashasvi Jaiswal ready to be maybe not in the IPL, but not in T20, but Test one day.
One day, yes, yeah.
I feel he's got the talent to make it to all three formats, one after the other. His technique is so good. I don't see him having a problem in Test cricket as well down the line. But obviously, you start off with ODI cricket as your entry bid.
The short form of Test cricket.
The short form of Test cricket, exactly.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I think he's playing with with no fear, which is the most important thing. If you look at someone like Prithvi Shaw, fitness is out, the game is out.
Yeah, that's true.
He's thinking a lot. He doesn't have clarity in his head.
That's actually the biggest difference that I've seen. It's stark from what he looked like almost 2 seasons ago, to now. Like Yashasvi Jaiswal physically looks bigger. He's grown into his body. I think he's still got a bit more growing to do, a little bit more muscle to put on, and get used to it as well. But also, just a side note, kudos for Rajasthan Royals for bringing a player through.
Yeah.
Not a lot of IPL teams would have stuck with a player, developed them to the point where you're now looking at a fringe international player. I think he could play for Sri Lanka if he wanted to, quite easily.
He could, and look, Rajasthan Royals has a history of this. Jadeja came through the ranks through Rajasthan Royals. So they have nurtured some good Indian players in the past as well. Someone who has really disappointed this year again is Sanju Samson. Don't know. I mean, I look at him every time. He plays a couple of excellent shots, and then comes the third one, which is like, why?
Some of that's tactical. Like in the last game, he did 17 off 17, and he needed to put the accelerator. It was he had some big hitting, later in the order, so he needs to switch it up. I also think that the Rajasthan Royals are in a really interesting position from a batting lineup standpoint. Like, I don't know where you play him. Like, do you play him at 3 or do you play him at 4, or do you play him do you bring him on when you have lost your opening batsman? Because I don't think his best option is to come in when Butler and Jaiswal have done damage, in the first 10 overs. He's not that kind of player. You're better off bringing in Hetmeyer because he can give him, an over to settle and then start smashing. But
I have another sort of thought to it. I would actually drop Hetmeyer. I know he's done well in a couple of games. He's won the game for Rajasthan, but I would drop him because he's sort of gone completely off his form. Maybe bring Joe Root in at number 3, and then Samson at 4. That would be my thought.
Yeah, I'm personally not comfortable with Sanju Samson at 3 either. I think it puts the batting balance a bit off.
Yeah,
look, and I'm not going to criticize him. He's a countryman, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. But what I will say though is that, but there's a couple of players who don't have position flexibility, which makes it difficult for where Samson plays. Samson has a little bit more position flexibility, and I think that's causing some of the batting problems. But I mean, overall, Rajasthan is sitting in second, so it's not like they're doing too much wrong.
Yeah. Talking about position flexibility and getting some extra training in. There's also some training exercises going on in Pakistan, Sid?
Yeah. Well, firstly, they need to figure out how far is 30-yard circle. That's one thing. So they started the game, and then the umpires realized, hang on, we haven't got the markers right. So then they started the old school thing of
Did
actually
they get a
doing
tape
it by
measure
steps.
out? Straight
Yeah, they actually counted with steps, and then they got the tape out, which was like, are you sure? Is that how you do it? Like, don't you think you do it before the game starts? But yeah, that's Pakistan for you, man. You know,
Just another day.
just another day. Uh, Quickly sum up the series in Pakistan. They played 5 T20s. The result was 2-2, which means they didn't win at home again. They're playing 5 meaningless ODIs. They are leading 2-0. Black Caps is playing like a C team. Uh, still scored 300 odd, 289 or something in the first ODI. Daryl Mitchell scored 200s. Look, they're playing on roads again, as they always do.
Yeah.
Which just keeps getting better and better as the game goes on.
But maybe that's why the markings for the 30-yard circle are off, because, they need it's like the road markings kind of just not quite sitting right with the roundabout circle measurements.
Do they have
They
roundabouts
just need to know.
I'm not sure they have roundabouts in Pakistan.
I'm sure they have
I'm
roundabouts.
sure
Maybe
they do.
they just
It
got
would-
the digits
It
confused.
would be the odd
That's what
fountain.
I'm thinking. So that's your Pakistan New Zealand series. Is there anything else going on? There's a test match was going on in Sri Lanka, Ireland, which was like just kept going on and on and on for like 4 days until Ireland collapsed on day 5. And I think they scored like 400 something. Then they scored 700. I don't know, something like that. Uh, they won the game in the end. Yeah. And lastly, we've got 6 weeks. We'll just do a quick talk on it. The World Test Championship final,
Yep.
7th of June, the Oval, India, Australia. The teams have been announced. We'll discuss that in detail closer to the time. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. And good comeback for Jinx.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are actually saying that he's been selected because of his form in the IPL. That's actually not true. If you look at his domestic in the last 6 or 12 months, his domestic has actually improved quite a lot. He's been scoring well. His attitude has changed. He said the other day, I was listening to one of his interviews. He says, "I'm playing with no fear. I've got nothing to lose," and that's the way it should be. He
Yep.
he could be the guy who actually scores, the maximum runs in that final. Who knows?
Mm.
I can see a couple of walking wickets, but other than that, Michael Vaughan says, they should drop Gill and play Rahul. Don't know why.
No, Michael Vaughan can just retire from analysis.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it in detail close to the time. But yeah, that's what's coming up in 6 weeks as far as the test match is concerned, and then the Ashes after that.
Yeah, that'll be a good finale to the IPL coming up as well. It should be a good finish. And talking about things and zooming around, and lots of zooming around, Shivank,
Mm-hmm.
how have you been catching up on the F1?
So since we last spoke, this was the first weekend of Formula One racing. It's finally back, and this time they're in Azerbaijan on the street circuit in Baku. To no one's surprise, Red Bull is still fast. To no one's surprise, Mercedes is still figuring things out. To everybody's surprise, Ferrari did well and did not have a DNF in qualifying or the sprint shootout. So some things are changing.
So the F1 season isn't finished, and it definitely is still on, or is it still definitely finished and it's a foregone conclusion?
It's a foregone conclusion who's going to win because of just how fast the RB19 car is. It's like you can't even keep up with it. It turns out, yeah, like when the DRS is on and that car goes at its full speed, others are just trying to figure out what went past them. But yeah, there's an interesting twist this year in the sense that Aston Martin's doing really well and Mercedes isn't, and Ferrari's being Ferrari with a whole bunch of bad decisions. So the race for second, third, and fourth in the constructors is still pretty hard.
And so out of that, who qualifies for the Champions League?
Or there might be a breakaway ESL.
Yes.
But no,
I've got a question. In
Yes.
your very knowledgeable opinion, Shivak, where do you think Daniel Ricciardo is going to race next year? For who? Is it going to be Red Bull?
I don't think it's going to be Red Bull. I honestly don't think so. Because, okay, so two reasons. They've got Max Verstappen and they've got Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen is not going anywhere. He's practically the best driver that is out there. Checo is the best second racer you can have in a team because of how much he takes in the team into consideration and how tactically aware he is. He's also a very good driver. He's probably one of the best defenders of a position I've seen in a while. What is most likely to happen is there's going to be a few races out of contract next year, and one of them potentially is Lewis Hamilton to go to Formula One. So there is a possibility Danny Ricciardo goes there, but I don't know, to be honest. Too early. August is when silly season starts in F1 because that's the second half of the year after they've had that 2-3 week break. So that's when we'll find out more about where Ricciardo's headed. But yeah, so far he is doing a lot of the media and marketing side for F1, for Red Bull, I beg your pardon, without actually driving.
I think he's doing some test driving, right? Or he's
on the simulator and stuff, yes.
Yeah.
But not actually on the track.
Oh, he's not on the track. Okay, interesting.
Even though he's designated reserve driver, he's not been on the track this year.
Horner has come out and said that he would love to have him back. I just don't see where he fits. As you said.
Doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Also the age.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, how old is Hamilton? Hamilton's like getting up there and he's one of,
Yeah, but Hamilton's Hamilton. He's got more race wins than the next 5 guys combined.
Yeah, well, you used to talk about Hamilton. Oh, sorry, you used to talk about Ricciardo in the same breath as Hamilton. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he was considered the best overtaker for a few years there. 3 years there, I think, at least.
3 years, yeah. Up until 8.
Yeah, when he moved to Renault.
Yeah, that's when it all went south.
Yeah. Well, it's not actually surprising. The way that Red Bull's set up, it's very difficult for a Formula One driver to stay there. It's not just Verstappen. You look at their history, Webber, all of them.
Button, yeah.
So with Ricciardo and with Lewis Hamilton, Ricciardo kind of seemingly getting closer and closer to that age of potentially looking at retirement and maybe not having a spot for him anywhere. And Lewis Hamilton kind of always being kind of there now, apparently, and doing all sorts of other things, including trying to buy Manchester United. Who's the heir incumbent? I mean, Max Verstappen is obviously he is number one at the moment.
There's a lot of high hopes on 3 young racers, and one of them happens to be Aussie Oscar Piastri.
Yeah,
he's driving right now for McLaren, but he is talked about very highly around the circuit, and he's designated as one for the future.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's going to matter. Like in that generation, I don't think it's going to matter who's actually the better driver. It's going to be who they land with and how much faster from an engineering side these cars are going to be. That's going to dictate most of it.
There's going to be a new rule change, a few rule changes that come into play in 26 with new engine regulations and fuel changes. So who's to say that the current dominance of Red Bull goes on beyond 26? They've done incredibly well this year between 2018 and 26, but nobody has a clue what happens in the next lot of regulations come in.
Who moves best during those regulations and
who
manages
adapt
best, right?
Yeah. And just coming back to the old thing, so other than Oscar Piastri, the 2 really highly rated drivers are Nick De Vries, who is with Williams right now. Williams is the feeder team for Mercedes, And the last one is Logan Sargent, who again is a rookie, but really highly rated.
And, talking about some young American hopefuls and some young drivers to look out for.
Smooth.
Kevin, let's move on to the week of weeks in the NFL.
Yes, the NFL draft.
And the wheeling and dealing and the trade mania.
Yeah, God, this year it started early. It was a week of the draft, and former Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, 4-time most valuable player, Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers, or the former Green Bay Packers quarterback, is now a New York Jet. So that was a week of the draft. So you got this massive quarterback change there. And then you have the draft, and comes along, and Bryce Young gets picked by the Carolina Panthers. This is after the Carolina Panthers trades up to the first pick. A huge draft haul for the Chicago Bears. And we were talking about it before. Why this is really interesting is because Bryce Young is a smaller quarterback, and typically quarterbacks are 6'4". This guy's around 6 foot. He plays under 200 pounds, which is less than 90 kilos. And there's been a huge focus on concussions, especially with smaller players in the NFL. It's had a huge impact on whether it's a good idea to draft a player who is handling the ball basically on 50% of touches and has a higher risk of concussions because everybody's gunning for them on the defensive side. Is it a good idea to draft a smaller player? And, the NFL is at the coalface with a lot of these things. So I think over the last couple of years, we've seen those changes sort of translate across to the NRL. The NRL sort of taken a more aggressive approach on, if they have a concussion, they're going to sit out for 11 days. So it's really interesting for that to happen, like for you to draft a smaller quarterback, which is more likely to get these type of injuries.
Is that also like a little bit of the teams going, you know what, we're going to put in a smaller quarterback, and so therefore you have to be better tacklers when you are, on the defensive side, because you can't go high, you can't take this guy's head out, and his head is going to be a bit lower, so your technique's going to have to be better. Otherwise, there's going to be all kinds of penalties and sin bins and flags and everything else that happens.
So an interesting thing about the NFL is that they don't do suspensions based on incidents on the field. It's more fines. So a player doesn't get rubbed out the following week if they, hit another player in a, awkward or inappropriate position. So if you go for a head-high tackle or whatever, you go helmet to helmet really is the equivalent. Then it ends up being a fine, not a suspension. So yeah, there's some deterrent on that front because players don't like losing money. Nobody likes losing money, let's be honest. But at the last, it's interesting because from a smaller quarterback standpoint, it's less about the hit, the physical hit. It's their head hitting the ground after being tackled. And that's what happened to Tua Tagovailoa last year. He essentially, even though the Dolphins, which is the team that he played for, came out and said that he didn't actually have a concussion, for all intents and purposes, it looked like he had a concussion. And then he still came back on the field. So that was a big talking point because he got a second concussion after that, and he did have some, negative side effects from it. So player welfare and safety sort of stepped in, and now you have a lot of teams questioning, is it worth the risk? You have this player who you spend maybe $50 million a year on, and if they're injured and they've gone out for, it's a 16-game season, so if they're out, 4 games, that's a significant amount of time. So that Bryce Young factor is interesting. But again, at the same time, Carolina Panthers thought that he is talented enough to be picked first overall.
To not get concussed and not.
Well, maybe not to get concussed. The risk is worth it. Again, this is a $50 million play. It's kind of like saying, Stacey Jones, he's a small player. should he be picked. I mean, Stacey Soames was fantastic.
Yeah, is he big enough to defend and have big guys running at him all day and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, same sort of deal. Yeah, but everything apart from that was about as standard for an NFL draft as usual. So maybe about 10 trades, some crazy like four level deep trades. We were talking about it before, where the like LA traded to Detroit, traded to Arizona, which all one of those trades happened almost a year and a half ago. So they, there's a long time between drinks.
The 12th draft pick was, in the end, it was Detroit Lions, but it originally with Cleveland, and then Houston, and then Arizona, and then Detroit finally landed with it.
Yes. Yeah, that was interesting. That's another quarterback trade who we won't talk about for, we want to stay on the air. Yeah.
Just for being too eager in the physio room or wanting to get to the physio room.
Yeah, the private physio room. But, it was a great night. It was all the hype, all of the drama. Houston Texans took the second and the third pick. They traded up from 12 or something down to 3. And that was like heart in the mouth stuff for me. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan. You can tell by the jersey. And we were waiting on a quarterback falling to us, and he did. And we got an alien. So Anthony Richardson is the next QB for the Indianapolis Colts, and we're all pretty pumped. It's the equivalent of Sean Johnson coming back to the Warriors. Yeah. Okay. Like that. It's on the same level, except think of Sean Johnson in his peak when he was young coming to the Warriors. It's like that kind of feeling.
Anthony Richardson hasn't even played in NFL.
I know. He's got 13 starts, but he is an absolute alien. Like he looks like a linebacker. He's 6'4" and he runs a 4.4. We talked about Nolan Smith.
You know what I love? You know what I love is that at the moment, Kevin, you're wearing a 44 Indianapolis the Colts jersey, Indianapolis Colts jersey, and Anthony Richardson did a 4.4. He ran a 4.4, so you just need to put a little white dot in there, and then you got like yourself Anthony Richardson jersey going.
Well, I mean, I need to have something positive to feel about sport, because the Knights have. I've just had like heartbreak after heartbreak. Like first it was the Panthers, now the Cowboys, and then the Eels have thrashed us. So it's like I don't know. I got to live in some kind of positivity.
Kevin, you brought up an alien, so I'll bring up the other alien which you briefly mentioned. Whatever happened to Nolan Smith?
Oh, guess what?
Where did he finish?
He ended up – okay, so how does this happen? So the best player in the draft is Jalen Carter, right?
Okay.
Off-field incident happened. He drops in the draft. He goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, who were in the Super Bowl just last year, right? Yeah. They already have a fantastic team. They were like slated to pick a running back because they didn't have any holes. They just needed to, let's get another weapon. But they get Jalen Carter, the best player in the draft. And then at the tail end of the draft, their actual pick, they get Nolan Smith. Like, how does that happen? How does one team get so lucky?
Are you suggesting that the Philadelphia Eagles are destined to win the Super Bowl this year?
This is the year now.
All I'm saying at this particular, because you never know what's going to happen, but all I'm saying at this point in time is they were in the Super Bowl last year. They have probably the best play. They have the best player in this year's draft, and they have a very, very good player from this year's draft as well. I think they're going to be a very good team this year. And unfortunately for you Niners fans out there who had to wait until the third round to see their first pick, courtesy of Christian McCaffrey, I'm sure he's worth it. But
every time I've seen him play, he feels like he's worth it.
Oh, yeah, no, he's definitely worth it. He's definitely worth it. But, at this stage as well, you kind of look at it and go, is Trey Lance worth it? Because you probably could end up halfway through this year and not have Trey Lance on your board, but giving up 2 first-rounders for him, which I don't think you could
hindsight.
Yeah.
Hindsight. Yeah. All about hindsight.
Yes. Well, at least it wasn't concussions, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And you have a quarterback. So Brock Purdy looks fantastic, and he looks like your future starting quarterback. So, positively all around, right?
And, like transitioning that into the NRL and talking about, NRL kind of putting down, going down hard on concussions. I think we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but the Warriors are in a situation which, NRL have a stand down policy if it's a grade 1 concussion. It's an 11-day stand down, but somehow the Warriors got scheduled to play 3 games in 11 days. So what would generally be basically a 1-match stand down now becomes a 2-match stand down for a player over 11 days. And, people going, are we being a bit overprotective with head knocks? Are we not doing enough? Is that just makes common sense?
I think unless the player safety issue is very important. I think you can go down the path of being a bit too lax, and the NRL and all contact sports have been lax for a very long period of time. I'm not sure all of the concussions are concussions, so that's one thing. So better testing would probably be worth it, because if you're standing down a player for 11 days, you've got to be sure the impact is pretty big. Especially if it's for 2 games, it's tight competition. Momentum is everything. And especially for you guys who've got the added stick of having to travel basically everywhere by flight, it doesn't help either. So I think I'm not sure if it's, and I don't think the NRL can handle a lawsuit. That's basically game over for them. If they have a medical related lawsuit that they would lose because they didn't do everything in their power to protect players, then that's a long-term problem that they won't be able to solve.
But then on the flip side, right? So now the rugby league, apparently accidental head knocks, right? That is somehow okay in NRL. So 2 players going in for a tackle, the tackler and the ball runner smack heads. They both kind of a bit groggy, get up, play the ball, continue. That's not a penalty. No one's getting in trouble. Continue, play on. Where then you flip sides to rugby. And if that was to happen in rugby, that's pretty much a direct red card, at least a sin bin, if not a direct red card for even just an accidental head knock because it was incorrect tackling position. And so how is that then not protecting the player?
So the way that so I've played a bit of rugby before, league and union. Tackling technique is that, at least tackling technique that I was taught, it doesn't exist now. Honestly, it doesn't. It's not even in the same planet, because with all the grappling stuff and the fact that you're going high, the chance of head knocks are significantly higher in the NRL just because of that. The other part about this is that if you go low and you get it wrong, that's a concussion almost immediately, because a hip to the head that's the more common one that you see. Yep. Yeah.
A knee or a hip to
knee. Exactly. So I actually think that both union and league have a problem at the tackling level that they haven't quite solved, because for you to get an advantage, you have to go high. You have to go high enough so that you're securing the ball, firstly, and then you're able to hold the player up so that the play the ball takes longer, right? In NRL.
Yep.
In union, it's a little bit different, but let's stick to NRL for a second. So you're holding the player up, which means that the defense can essentially have a rest, or at least reset the line so that they can be prepared. Unless if they change the rules where if you do a legs tackle, like a clean legs tackle, you get a dominant call, and the defender has the opportunity to come back around into the marker position, you're not going to see any changes. because there's no advantage in doing a legs tackle, and that's how we were all taught.
Yep, get low and cut the legs and get them to the ground fast, and you can't offload or do anything else.
Yeah,
but and along with that as well, with the NRL, staying on the NRL, the Tigers finally won. My God, jeez, didn't they wait? Like, they finally won a match, and they happened to beat last year's champions. They are actually the Panthers' bogey team, right? Like, the West Tigers somehow, for the last 3 years, have beaten the Panthers.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a battle of the West thing. I think it's a rivalry. It's everything that we love about rugby league. So I 100% enjoyed that game. It was in the wet. It was classic football, winter weather football. Yeah, not like 40 degrees on the Gold Coast, right? It's great. And like Penrith this season has only blown out like one or two teams. It's been very close games. Yeah, and that's across the board. A lot of the games are really close, like 2 points, 1 point, field goal, golden point, quite regularly. So Magic Round will be really interesting next week if the pitch holds up. Congrats to the Tigers fans; they deserve it for being Tigers.
Much deserved. Yeah,
they'll be buoyed. They'll be waiting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the Tigers probably would have liked Whiten though, if we're honest.
Oh God!
At least a shot at getting Whiten.
I think there's more drama on that, and we did talk about Whiten, privately before, but it just makes no sense. It makes no sense that he thinks so. Just as an update, he's going to the Rabbitohs after being offered $1 million plus at the Raiders
1.1. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 1.1 a season at the Raiders to go take 700 a year at the Rabbitohs.
Yeah,
to play center and potentially win a competition. Are the Rabbitohs going to win a competition? They've got a kind of still got a young coach who's not not really.
Still a bit wet around the ears.
Yeah, and their halves as well. Elias is still in his second year. Yeah, there's still question marks over South Sydney. Are definitely not like a rubber stamp premiership team, and they're not like, this is the team this is the one piece that makes them a premiership team. So it's an interesting call.
I think that this kind of stuff is going to happen more often. But like, if we're honest, it has been happening for a long time. It's just that the team that has sort of benefited from it the most is the Sydney Roosters. So now we're seeing South Sydney Rabbitohs sort of do something very similar. I'm sure there's like third-party deals and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There has to be, like, just to fill that salary cap. But
it's like if Russell Crowe's shouting he's going to build like Jack White in a restaurant or something like that. There's some stuff like that. Something like that must be
something
work,
dodgy
right?
like that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We'll have to have another term for sombrero, maybe, or some other wide brimmed hat for the Rabbitohs, because the Roosters is taking a sombrero. But look, I think it's going to continue to happen as teams and you'll have these upper echelon teams, the top four, who attract these kinds of players who want to win premierships. I think that NRL has a bigger talent problem at the moment because look, Whiten, I can kind of understand because he's almost 30, right? Like if you're 30 and you've like devoted yourself to one club for that period of time and now you just want to win a premiership, right? So that's a little bit different. I can kind of understand that. What I can't understand is players jumping clubs when they're, under 19, under 20, under 22, and the club has spent like so much money and time investing in these players. I don't think that's, I think we need a way to solve that, like maybe a NRL draft or something like that to make it so it's equal.
The NRL draft sounds like a great idea, right? Like, I mean, conceptually, it sounds like a great idea. But then, how do the clubs that train all these youngsters, because it's still club based, right? With the American system and NFL, it's college based. So the clubs themselves, the franchises, are not training these youngsters and not putting their expense into these youngsters. Whereas, it's like English football clubs or football clubs around the world. If they are training these youngsters and suddenly then it's like, oh yeah, let's have a draft. You can pick whoever you want. I want that guy, I want that guy, I want that guy. How does that compensation pay out? Do you then, like, if 10 of your juniors get ramsacked by every other club because you had an amazing New South Wales Cup team, do you get extra salary cap? Do you get how do you make up for it? Do you get more draft picks? You get yeah. Yep. Yeah. But final position of last year. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it happened, you're talking about Roosters. It happened, a couple of years ago, because Joey Manu's contract was coming up, was where he was getting up for an open agency. And the Warriors did offer $1 million plus for Joey Manu to bring him to New Zealand, to make him the poster boy for the Warriors. And he opted to stay at the Roosters for 700. So that's not him really taking a pay cut, but that's him turning down that big chunk of money, because he's going to be part of the Roosters family, and they take care of their family, and down the line there's probably some things that they lined up for him that they promised him as well, after he finishes up his rugby league career. So there is that other side of it, and talking about those as well. And there's also great news for the Warriors. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck will be back in the Warriors colors next year, which is amazing. We're very, 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 very happy to have him back. Very happy to have him back. Don't know if he'll be fullback. Yeah, and good to have another premier fullback back in the NRL, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because we don't have enough already.
But there might be enough already. We're just looking at the small, tiny island country that's struggling.
Hold on. Joey Manu is playing 5'8" at the moment. I would have thought his preferred position, like if Joey Manu is playing 5'8", we have more than enough fullbacks in the competition.
Yeah. But I mean, the Warriors played Darren White and Zelezniak tonight, so let's we'll take RTS.
That's true.
We'll take RTS back. And that's again another thing from the concussion rule. Now with the concussions, the teams just have to be bigger, because every second week you're down two or three players just because concussions sit out, and so the squads just need to be bigger. You just need to have more quality and depth with the extra team as well. Don't know how much that kind of grows out, but that's a great opportunity for young players, and something that the draft could really deal with. And I think that's probably the best point to leave it there, lads. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for joining in on the chat. For your thoughts and opinions, the NFL, NRL, F1 and cricket was a fantastic chat. If you want to get sports nerdy with the team, for the listeners, you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter at The Back Pass Pod. We'll be back next week with more sports analysis and banter right here on The Back Pass.